Hey everybody, my name is Paul Esden Jr., aka Boy Green, and welcome to my YouTube channel. And we're going to continue to break down all the top signings for the New York Jets in free agency, and none bigger than Carl Lawson, who the New York Jets signed to a 3-year deal for $45 million. That $15 million per average is the highest on the team. And we're going to have great guests breaking down every free agent signing the Jets have made thus far. And today we've got a very special guest. And I'm pleased to be joined by Lindsay Patterson, who covers all things Cincinnati Bengals for Enquirer Sports and WKRQ, Q102 Cincinnati. Lindsay, thanks for taking the time.
Hey, nice to meet you. A lot of good things happening for the New York Jets right now.
And thank God, because there's been a lot of not good happening with the New York Jets for a very long time. So we appreciate it. And I'm going to be honest, the Jets haven't had an edge rusher since John Abraham, and that's a running joke with the Jets for like the last 15 years. And there is high expectations when you hand out a contract like this to a player in free agency in Carl Lawson. But I want to go back to the beginning with you, Lindsay. At the very beginning here, back in that 2017 NFL draft, the Bengals throw a dart in the fourth round on some guy named Carl Lawson out of Auburn. What were the expectations from Bengals fans and media initially for a guy who's just a fourth round pick?
Yeah, the Cincinnati Bengals, honestly, I think you can look at a lot of the first round misses, not counting Joe Burrow. Unfortunately, he got injured last season. But I think when you look in the third and fourth round, they've been able to find some defensive hits and that have actually started to work for them. Unfortunately for Carl Lawson, he comes out here in his rookie year and he surprises a few fans in the Cincinnati Bengals. Then he gets injured and he's had to deal with, a few injuries coming in his NFL career. So that's been unfortunate. But, expectations nowadays for any of the defensive starters or anybody that they draft in the early to mid rounds is they can make an impact right away. And Carl Lawson was definitely someone like that. And I joked when he signed with the New York Jets that New York media is going to love him. He's so fun to be around and interview. And I think a lot of Jets fans are really going to like that. They're going to like his production on the field, but also off of it.
Yeah, and it didn't take long. He just had his media opportunity with the Jets last week, and he was making jokes about the Madden franchise mode, and fans are already going crazy about that. What kind of, give us a little bit more, what kind of personality are the Jets, and what kind of personality, quite frankly, what kind of man are the Jets getting in Carl Lawson on and off the field?
You're getting a leader and a teammate in there. And Carl Lawson had to do a lot last season. I mean, you look at the depth, well, not a whole lot of depth on the defensive line for the Cincinnati Bengals. And Carl Lawson really had to step up out there and he earned himself a contract. Credit to him to go to the New York Jets. I know a lot of Cincinnati Bengals fans really wanted him to come back. And I know they were there till the very end. But I think you're going to get a guy who is goofy and funny. And he's really going to be fun for a lot of fans. That was one of the, and again, I shouldn't have I'm bummed that this guy's not signing with the team. Obviously, I'm not a fan, but at the same time, he was a media favorite. Any of the Zoom interviews or one-on-one interviews, he always gave you a good quote, and he's honest. He's an honest guy. I remember last year, towards the end of the season, of course, when a guy's contract is going to be up, you start getting those questions about, do you think you're coming back to Cincinnati? And I just remember him saying, I don't want to talk about anything like that. I have good vibes right now, and he was feeling really good at what was going to happen in the offseason. And credit to him, the guy got paid, and he's definitely worth it. But I think fans are they're gonna love this guy.
Well, let me go back to that because, again, one man's trash, and use that term very loosely, is another man's treasure. And when he reached free agency, of course, the Jets and a lot of teams were willing to throw a lot of money at Carl Lawson. Why didn't the Bengals use the franchise tag? That seemed to be a serious option that was on the table.
That's a multi-million dollar question, literally. I asked that after Carl Lawson was signed by the New York Jets, why the Bengals didn't use the franchise tag because they were in it. They were in it to bring him back. They wanted to bring Carl Lawson back. He deserved to come back. One of the things Cincinnati has been able to do is take care of their own guys. I know a lot of people say that the organization's cheap. They don't spend the money. Well, they've been pretty aggressive in spending money the last two off seasons. I think it just has more to do with, the way it worked out for Carl Lawson. I think, credit to him. He said he liked the Jets. Obviously, the new head coach was a great investment for him to go there and get kind of a little bit of change on the defensive side. But at the same time, I mean, it's the $1 million question why they didn't just franchise him and try to, work out a multi-million-dollar deal before the season started. But yeah, no, it's unfortunate for their defense right now. I'll say that. But yeah, the franchise tag would have been a good option when they didn't win. I think they let Carl Lawson bet on himself and he won.
Yeah, no question about it. He got his money in a year where not everyone got paid. So, congratulations to Carl Lawson. And let me ask about this. It seems like if you look at his career, and you mentioned some of the injuries that he's experienced throughout his tenure in the NFL thus far, he hasn't had an opportunity to start a lot of games until this past season. Is that because of injury? Is that because the Bengals had a first world problem, had edge rushers coming out the wazoo? I mean, what's the story here?
I think they wanted to change it up a little bit. Carl Lawson has been someone who's really shown. I mean, they take in consideration what they're seeing in practice, what they see in the locker room, and a guy that they felt should have been the starter and could be a starter out there. Everybody kind of knows the drama, what happened with Carlos Dunlap, and putting some of the plays and the starters in the depth chart on the board, and he ended up getting traded. So it was kind of a little bit of drama going on inside the locker room, and Carl Lawson was just there putting in the work and showing that he deserved to be out there on the defensive line. So I just want to say, I know it sounds kind of corny, you're in the NFL and you get paid to work, but he really showed that he should be out there, and honestly, it paid off for him.
Again, we're still good. Lindsay Patterson, who covers all things Cincinnati Bengals for Enquirer Sports and WKRQ here on the show. And I got to be honest, when you look at the analytics, they love Carl Lawson, whether it's the next-gen stats of how quickly he gets off, whether the pressures from that right side. He led everyone in the entire NFL with those pressures. So the analytics love him. 20 sacks in 4 seasons isn't a great number, but it just seems like the analytics point to the potential of what Carl Lawson can do at the next level if given the right opportunity. And obviously, Carl Lawson in his media opportunity said Robert Saleh was a big reason he signed here. I think $45 million was another big reason that he signed here, quite frankly. But can he reach that level? Because again, the expectations for the contract of that magnitude is he could be a double-digit sack guy. He has yet to be that yet in his career. Can he realize that full potential in your experience? Do you believe he can?
I think he can with that pressure. And the thing that you have to think about with Carl Lawson when he was here, look, they were dealing with injuries. As I mentioned, the Carlos Dunlap situation, Geno Atkins was injured pretty much the whole entire 2020 season. So he didn't have help. I mean, Carl Lawson was doing his own thing on the defensive line and really showing up. And honestly, credit to him because it did work out. And I've already said that. But at the same time, I think he can because he's going to have that help in New York. And he didn't have that in Cincinnati.
All right, let's go to this. People want to know who Carl Lawson is. Again, fans are already coming familiar with him in the first interview, and I imagine they're going to learn about him pretty quickly. Do you have a story, whether it's on the football field, off the football field, of Carl Lawson that Jet fans would find interesting, that they would say, you know what, we're ready to have that guy on the team?
Oh my goodness, you're putting me on the spot. I should have been prepared for a Carl Lawson story. Honestly, I just know that anytime we've talked to him, we've interviewed him, we've had him on shows, we've had him on media Zooms, we've talked to him in person. And one of my favorite things about Carl Lawson is he's an honest player and he's not doing it for the show and social media, get the likes or anything like that. Carl Lawson's just a goofy, funny dude. I highly recommend following him on all of his social media channels, but he's honest and he really is the one that puts in the work. And it's so corny and cliche, but he's going to be someone you would want in a locker room, and either rookies could really look up to, and even some of the vets. I think New York is it's the perfect spot for him. As soon as I heard he was going to the Jets, I thought, no, there's no better city that is ready for all the endorsements that Carl Lawson is ready to endure when he's there.
And one last one before I get you out of here, and this is off the wall. Didn't even have this on my sheet, but it's just a guy that I have a connection with. That is AJ Green. Me and AJ Green back from our Somerville, South Carolina days. He was a senior at Somerville High School when I was there. Go Green Wave there when I was a freshman back in Somerville, South Carolina. Now he's in Arizona, which, I'm going to be honest, that's going to be very weird this fall. I'm sure it's going to be very weird for all the people in Cincinnati. AJ Green, how big of a loss is that? Did the Bengals want to bring him back? Because it would have been great to see. You don't see it in the NFL anymore. One player staying with an entire franchise for his entire career. If it could have been anyone, I would have loved to see it with AJ Green.
Yeah, I think it's kind of fitting that he's going to Arizona. I mean, to be determined if Larry Fitzgerald is going to be there for the 2021 season. But AJ had talked about that a lot during his career and staying in one place and really loving the Brown family. I mean, if you're anybody in the NFL or even in Cincinnati, a lot of people give Mike Brown a hard time and don't feel like he's a good owner or anything like that. But the players, they praise him. And AJ Green was one to say that. He said it last week when he was leaving that he loved Mike Brown and loved his time in Cincinnati. And when you talk about missing AJ Green, the thing is, the writing was on the wall that this was going to be it for AJ Green. You go back to last season when he was franchise tagged, and it was almost like a prove it deal. If he was going to come out here and feel like he was going to be part of the offense, and unfortunately, he's coming off an injury. AJ Green had been injured for almost 2 years straight, and not having him out there was a big deal. He is a difference maker in the offense. I still feel like he can be AJ Green. And I know everybody in Cincinnati roots for him to be the former Cincinnati Bengals first round pick and really show himself out in Arizona. And I think that really can happen. I mean, you have all the weapons in the world and a great quarterback. But at the same time, I don't think missed when it comes to having him on the field. If he's fully healthy, then 100%. But I think if you go back to 2020 season, I think you can fill that void with just a loaded wide receiver class in the NFL draft, and we'll more than likely see that. But I think inside the locker room, 100%, you could be on the defensive side and look up at AJ Green and know that he's a leader. He was a quiet leader, but he was a good dude, and he's just one of those veterans that you want to have in any room. And I think whatever he does after his NFL football career will be absolutely amazing. So I think AJ Green will be more missed in the locker room, and everyone in Cincinnati is rooting that he can get back to his old self on the field.
And last one before we get you out of here, Lindsay. I've asked no one else this. So, again, I'm putting you on the spot here. But A.J. Green, future Pro Football Hall of Famer?
Oh my goodness, the Hall of Fame. If you knew what the Hall of Fame talk was like in Cincinnati, there's a lot of guys who deserve to be in and they're not in. Unfortunately, there's only one Anthony Munoz right now. I wouldn't put him in yet, but I'm not saying the door's shut. I would put him in the Bengals Ring of Honor every day of the week if they have one. Rumors are that that will be coming soon, but I wouldn't put him in yet. But his career's not over, and similar to what Carson Palmer was able to do when he went out to Arizona after with his little short cup of coffee with the Raiders and really have himself a season and a little late career despite the injuries. I think there's a chance if he's fully healthy, if AJ Green is fully healthy, that he's not done yet. And I wouldn't shut the door on it right now. I wouldn't say so, but it's crazy to think the numbers he has in Cincinnati. I mean, he was one touchdown away from breaking Chad Johnson's record, and he was injured for most of his time in Cincinnati. So his numbers are impressive for being a guy who had to battle those injuries. It's always really unfortunate, but I say not yet, but I'm not shutting the door on it. And I really hope that he gets in.
So you're saying there's a chance,
I'm
and that's all.
saying there's a chance right now. I don't want to shut the door on it because honestly, the Hall of Fame, goodness, what a great place for him. And it just you think about everything that he's had to battle in his career and honestly in his life. The guy has himself a little bit of a story, and I know you're probably familiar with it when you watch some of those old E60s and 30 for 30s. AJ Green is a great dude. If he doesn't get in the Hall of Fame, he's definitely a Hall of Fame person.
And again, that same draft class with Julio Jones. I want to see another wide receiver draft class like that, seeing A.J. Green and Julio back to back. And Lindsay, I got to tell you, you're the best in the business. Thanks for
Oh,
gracing
thanks.
us with your presence. Thank you for the insight. I think all the Jets fans, viewers, listeners, and on the radio who are listening to this will really enjoy it. Thank you.
No problem. I'm going to ask you and I'll put you on the spot
Oh,
because one
yeah.
thing when you're interviewing somebody who interviews too,
Yes.
who are the Jets going to take with their first pick?
See, this is the question. This is the question, the multi-million dollar question, to phrase it the way you did. To me, with the number 2 overall pick, as much as I love Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold, I every time I think of Sam Darnold, I get visions of draft night, going back to seeing Sam Darnold get the call and all the hope and potential of fans across the world. And then you fast forward a couple years later, Sam Darnold, that joke, get him out of here. Where's the next guy? It's just that's the business that we're in, of a constant revolving door at the position right now. If I was put on the spot, which apparently I am right here, right now, I'm taking Zach Wilson with the 2nd overall pick out of BYU. I'm intrigued. I just had Charles Davis of the NFL Network on this channel a little earlier this week, and he sold me. He said he's infatuated with Zach Wilson's playmaking ability. and he thinks he can be a superstar at the next level. And too many smart people are telling me this. After all the BYU football games I watched this year and hearing what they say, I'm like, well, if they say it enough, I guess that has to be the case. So I am resulting with the public opinion for now, but we still got what, another month to the NFL draft, subject to change. But right now it's Zach Wilson.
Yeah, no, we feel all that in Cincinnati right now when they have the number 5 pick and everybody in front of them predicted to take a quarterback. So I'm ready for all the drama. I'm ready for the NFL draft to get back. It sounds like it's going to be in Cleveland, but it'll be a fun ride. No, I'm impressed with what the Jets have been able to do in free agency. So hopefully more dubs on your guys' side.
Yeah, well, we could use them. Thanks, Lindsay.
No problem.